Dear Senators, throughout the past year, people have asked for my thoughts about my cousin Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and his presidential campaign. I did not comment, not only because I was serving in a government position as United States Ambassador to Australia, but because I have never wanted to speak publicly about my family members and their challenges. We are a close generation of 28 cousins who have been through a lot together. We know how hard it's been, and we are always there for each other. But now that Bobby has been nominated by President Trump to be Secretary of Health and Human Services, a position that would put him in charge of the health of the American people, I feel an obligation to speak out. Overseeing the FDA, the NIH, the CDC, and Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, agencies that are charged with protecting the most vulnerable among us, is an enormous responsibility and one that Bobby is unqualified to fill. He lacks any relevant government, financial, management, or medical experience. His views on vaccines are dangerous and willfully misinformed. These facts alone should be disqualifying. But he has personal qualities related to this job, which for me pose even greater concern. I've known Bobby my whole life. We grew up together. It's no surprise that he keeps birds of prey as pets, because Bobby himself is a predator. He's always been charismatic, able to attract others through the strength of his personality, his willingness to take risks and break the rules. I watched his younger brothers and cousins follow him down the path of drug addiction. His basement, his garage, his dorm room were always the center of the action, where drugs were available, and he enjoyed showing off how he put baby chickens and mice in a blender to feed to his hawks. It was often a perverse scene of despair and violence. That was a long time ago, and people can change. Through his own strength and the many second chances he was given by people who felt sorry for the boy who lost his father, Bobby was able to pull himself out of illness and disease. I admire the discipline that took and the continuing commitment it requires. But siblings and cousins who Bobby encouraged down the path of substance abuse suffered addiction, illness, and death, while Bobby has gone on to misrepresent, lie, and cheat his way through life. Today, while he may encourage a younger generation to attend AA meetings, Bobby is addicted to attention and power. Bobby preys on the desperation of parents of sick children, vaccinating his own kids while building a following hypocritically discouraging other parents from vaccinating theirs. Even before he fills this job, his constant denigration of our healthcare system and the conspiratorial half-truths he's told about vaccines, including in connection with Samoa's deadly 2019 outbreak of measles, have cost lives. And now we know that Bobby's crusade against vaccination has benefited him in other ways too. His ethics report makes clear that he will keep his financial stake in a lawsuit against an HPV vaccine. In other words, Bobby is willing to profit and enrich himself by denying access to a vaccine that can prevent almost all forms of cervical cancer and has already been safely administered to millions of boys and girls. During my time in Australia, I worked on the Quad Cancer Initiative, and I learned that cervical cancer is among the top 3 forms of cancer among women in a majority of countries. Tragically, every year, more than 200,000 children lose their mothers. They are orphaned due to a lack of vaccines and screening. Those are the real-world consequences of Bobby's irresponsible beliefs. We are a close family, and none of that is easy to say. It also wasn't easy to remain silent last year when Bobby expropriated my father's image and distorted President Kennedy's legacy to advance his own failed presidential campaign, and then groveled to Donald Trump for a job. Bobby continues to grandstand off my father's assassination and that of his own father. It's incomprehensible to me that someone who is willing to exploit their own painful family tragedies for publicity would be put in charge of America's life and death situations. Unlike Bobby, I try not to speak for my father, but I am certain that he and my Uncle Bobby, who gave their lives in public service to our country, and my Uncle Teddy, who devoted his long Senate career to the cause of improving health care, would be disgusted. The American healthcare system, for all its flaws, is the envy of the world. Its doctors and nurses, researchers, scientists, and caregivers are the most dedicated people I know. Every day they give their lives to heal and save others. They deserve a knowledgeable leader who is committed to evidence and excellence. They deserve a secretary committed to advancing cutting-edge medicine to save lives.
For it is not an enemy who taunts me, then I could bear it. It is not an adversary who deals insolently with me, then I could hide from him. But it is you, a man, my equal, my companion, my familiar friend. We used to take sweet counsel together. Within God's house we walked in the throng.
I'll give my stone to the first man who tells me that he has never sinned.
Oh, yes. Robert Kennedy Jr. going for the position of the big dog when it comes to our healthcare. A lot of people from the healthcare industry hate this man. But more than that, they fear him. They fear that a man like him could go into a position like the head of the Health and Human Resource Department and start looking at the research and possibly find out some things they don't want the public to know about. So they're going to do anything and everything in their power to make sure that this man does not get confirmed. And that includes bringing in your own family members. A lot of the things that she brought up about the past of Robert Kennedy, I'm not so sure what the hell it's got to do with anything at all. But before we go giving her any credibility about her testimony against her cousin, since she chose to cast her first stone, let's take a look at her and see if there's anything about her that would help us understand why it is she appears to be protecting pharmaceutical companies. So whenever a person works for the government, they have to give out a full disclosure form, and that includes investments. Caroline B. Kennedy, let's take a look. This is for the year 2023. If we just scroll down a little bit and take a look at the companies that she's invested in, well, there's a lot of them to take a look at. But I'd be interested in these kind of companies. Bristol Myers, Eli Lilly, both of them pharmaceutical companies. Johnson & Johnson, the list goes on. I'm sure there's a lot of them in here that I missed. But the point being, she is heavily invested into pharmaceutical companies. Bristol Myers is one of the ones she's invested in. Bristol Myers is a global biopharmaceutical company whose mission is to discover, develop, and deliver innovative medicines that help patients prevail other serious diseases. It's a pharmaceutical company. Eli Lilly, another pharmaceutical company. Johnson & Johnson, well, we all know Johnson & Johnson was involved with helping create the jab for the RONA. They also are a pharmaceutical company as well. She mentioned that under the Biden administration, she was the ambassador to Australia and also brought up a thing called Quad Cancer Moonshot Initiative. Now, in doing a little research about the Quad Center Moonshot Initiative, it's interesting. I like the fact that they're aggressively going after cancer, and I hope they're successful at it. But it does make me really concerned when I see people like Bill Gates and the Clinton Foundation being heavily involved with this project. The Cancer Moonshot Research Initiative rests on solid foundation of scientific research. So, is somehow, some way, what Robert Kennedy is going to do for Trump administration going to get involved or interfere with what's going on with this type of research? There's a high possibility. But it's not that Robert Kennedy is against vaccines. He's not at all. He supports them. But what he wants is clean, safe vaccines for the American people. And that is something I think everybody should get behind. If I go and get, or I take any of my family members to go get any types of vaccines, I want to make sure that I feel comfortable enough that if they get the vaccines, then they'll be safe. All he's saying is he wants to do the same thing. He is going to look into these vaccines and get down to the bottom of what they're made of, what type of actual research went into developing these vaccines. And I don't see anything wrong with that. The research initiative of the initial cancer moonshot launched in 2016 are delivering important insight into the mechanisms that drive cancer and have identified candidates for new cancer treatments, as well as new approaches to preventing and detecting cancer. It all sounds great, it does. They have laid the foundation for new programs and progress to accelerate discovery, increase collaboration, and expand data sharing amongst the research community. Then you scroll down to here, here's some people that support it. Partnership for Accelerating Cancer Therapy. The PAC is a 5-year public-private research collaboration launched by NIH and 11 pharmaceutical companies. Here's why people are concerned about Bobby Kennedy. You know, he's going to go in there and see what type of research is being done, making sure that nobody's cutting any corner or lying on the data that's being shared with the American people. Again, I don't have any problems with it. You would only have a problem with it if you're invested in these companies and you stand to make a whole lot of money off of them. So packed, huh? Partnership for Accelerating Cancer Therapy. I'm all for finding anything that can help cure cancer. Scrolling down just a little bit, here are the partners: Bristol Myers, Pfizer, Johnson & Johnson, and many other pharmaceutical companies. So ask yourself, why would there be any concern about a person who wants to look into how these drugs are being created and just making sure that they're safe and that there's no side effects that are affecting the American people? I don't have a problem with it. U.S. Embassy Consulate in Australia. Whoa, what do we have here? Well, the U.S.-Australia Cancer Moonshot Initiative. And look whose mug do we see on all these articles. So Caroline Kennedy supports and is involved with this initiative. And I'm sure that all those pharmaceutical companies that are involved right alongside her are giving her an earful about her cousin being involved, looking into the type of research that they are doing.
Good Morning America is brought to you by Pfizer.
CBS Health Watch sponsored by Pfizer.
Anderson Cooper 360. Brought to you by Pfizer.
ABC News Nightline. Brought to you by
Robert
Pfizer.
Kennedy is very clear. He is not against vaccine. But what he is against is when companies hide information that should be shared with the public, and any vaccines that might have major side effects, short or long-term side effects that may affect the patients. What's wrong with looking into that? I don't have a problem with it. The only people that should have a problem with it are those who do not like transparency whatsoever. As far as his cousin, Caroline, well, it's easy to assume that she's got some major incentives to want to talk bad about her cousin and discredit him as much as possible to do what it takes to make sure that he does not hold the position in which he is being appointed to. Anyways, let me know what you think. I'm out.